A recent Pew Research analysis found at least 4 in 10 U.S. adults experienced high levels of psychological distress at some point during the pandemic. During that same time period, experts say more Americans sought mental health care than before. In 2021, 42 million adults signed up for a type of treatment compared to just 27 million in 2002. The latest issue of the New York Times Magazine has a series on therapy and its effects, including one that looks into whether therapy actually works. Joining us now, staff writer for the New York Times Magazine, Susan Dominus, who writes about how some researchers are having a crisis of confidence about the field's success rate. So thanks for being on. This piece is so interesting. And you look at the reliability of therapy. Does it actually reduce suffering? In some cases, especially talk therapy, it's a resounding yes, but is it the type of therapy, or what did you find?
Well, actually, there's a lot of research to suggest that, in general, people who go to therapy do get better than people who don't. As for which kind of therapy, it's one of the frustrations in the field that it's unclear which kinds of therapy are best for which kinds of people. There are many people who work in a form of therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy that works on changing unhealthy patterns of thoughts and unhealthy behaviors. And there's some research to indicate that, especially for anxiety, that is the more effective treatment. But you can find people who will argue that really it's just a matter of finding a good therapist with whom you connect and developing a good relationship based on trust. And there's a lot of research to affect that many therapies are equally effective across the board.
Yeah, and we talk a good bit about CBT and DBT here, and have friends and family members that have used it to great success. I want to ask, though, about a trend that I noticed through the years, and that is, and it's based on payment from insurance companies. What's going to get paid for and what's not going to get paid for. It seemed that psychiatrists went from sitting, talking, spending time to people often walking into their offices, and this is, of course, a very crude generalization, but throwing pills at them. Just kind of like being a little more than a pharmaceutical dispenser, and too much guesswork going on there. Talk about how insurance, what it pays and what it doesn't pay, often limits what counselors can and cannot do over time.
You know, even when insurance does cover people's therapy, if you're going out of network, and many people do go out of network, it can get really exorbitantly expensive very, very quickly. And the truth is that, to some degree, medications obviously are thought to be as effective as long-term talk therapy. There's a lot of research to suggest that medications in conjunction with therapy, especially for depression, are more effective than either therapy or depression alone. But you are right that the proportion of people who are using medication, relative to the body of people seeking mental health care in general, that has increased. And I'm sure that does have to do both with people's insurance coverage and also the amount of time that they themselves have to devote to therapy and how much they can spend on therapy, even if insurance does cover it.
Let's talk about we talk about food deserts. Let's talk about treatment deserts. I've always felt so sorry for parents and children, specifically in underserved areas. And that also includes in rural America. My God, in rural America especially, it is really hard for some parents, I know firsthand, talking to friends, to find mental health counselors for themselves and for their children.
Yeah, that is definitely a huge crisis. I think there's some hope that teletherapy can solve some of those problems, but you can imagine, especially with teenagers, that might not be the most effective way to go. There's another article in the issue in which my article was published that talks about, that follows therapists who work specifically with suicidal teenagers by my wonderful colleague, Maggie Jones. And you really feel the pain and the guilt of the therapists who themselves realize there's only so much they can do in the face of how many young people are coming through the doors of the emergency room Another colleague of mine, Matt Richtel, has written about just how much time kids spend in ERs, kids with suicidal ideation or who are suicidal, just languishing while they try to find better services for them. It is a huge crisis for sure.
Massive.
Staff writer for the New York Times Magazine, Susan Daminis, thank you very much for
Thank you so
being
much
on the show this morning. We just have